But what I want to do there is try and show how we can take this and apply it more widely in your neighbourhood. Because that's where you start to have a real impact, and not only that, if you do that, you then have more community or garden. It's that business about space. So, just to finish with, the first thing, as a friend of mine used to say, you need a plan. You need to think what you're going to do. You assess what you have and where it is, where you are, the aspect, shelter, altitude, area, accessibility, connections, neighbours, established interest, potential interest, health and safety issues, etc. You need to think about design for nature, think about what nature requires. And how can you enhance that? And the idea is that you're enhancing the things that are really nice to look at as well, but will give you flowers. This is honesty, so it'll give you flowers for the pollinating insects, it'll give you food plant for beautiful orange-tipped butterflies, and it'll give you free bird seed in the autumn, so it's a win-win-win situation. And things like wild garlic, it's just absolutely delightful. If you don't like garlic, it's a bit of a problem, but if you've got a dampish garden, you can grab some handfuls of garlic seed and it will be through your garden. And then you've got garlic which you can use a bit like spinach but with garlic flavouring. So you can do wild garlic, mushrooms and all sorts of it. It's a fantastic one. And it's gorgeous and it's aromatic and it wards off vampires. So, you know, it's very win-win. And then thinking about how you plant strategically things that will do really well. So the alliums for several weeks in the summer can be absolutely amazing. They need plenty of sunlight, obviously, but they will be fantastic for bees, hoverflies, butterflies, etc. But also you think about designing for people. Like it's a garden. It's like talking about Grace Park or Whirlow Brook Park or wherever. It's a garden or a park. It's for people as well as nature. It's where you can bring people and nature together. So you're thinking about creating spaces for you where you can sit and enjoy nature and growing things that will be a backdrop for that, but also having things which are going to be really striking for that. You know, like a bearded iris, I got a lot of pleasure just from having that there in the garden. It was stunning for a short time. But you're growing things that are going to provide a cycle of flowers and fruit and berries, etc., right the way through the period. So, is your garden sunny or shady? Is it wet or dry? Is it nutrient-rich or poor or dry? Is it acid or alkaline? All these have an impact on what you can do. That's the guy's front garden again. Well, what I'm now trying to do is extend his impact into the roadside verge on the other side. So I've been taking a bit of seed and the orchids are already spreading, but I added a bit of yellow raffles there as well. And I noticed that the lawnmowers have stopped cutting it. So they're actually now just doing a tiny bit and then they're cutting it at the end of the season. We've not asked them to do that, they've just started to do it. And one of the things I have noticed is that the men with the mowers, or the persons with the mowers, more politically correct, will often respect, if you've got some wildflowers, they will often notice that they're there and mow around them. In public spaces you can do this with strategic planting of daffodils. So they actually miss out the daffodils, but they inadvertently then miss out everything else as well, and that's what they're trying to do. And I did find when I worked for the council, the best thing to do was actually go and talk to the team that did the grass mowing, and we got them involved. We said, you are the agents of conservation, if you like, and they were all really interested. Their managers, they're just a bunch of people that push lawnmowers. But actually, when you talk to them, they were all gardeners and they were all interested. So, even dandelions can be absolutely delightful. A weed is a plant in the wrong place. These are stunning and they are fantastic for insects. But we don't appreciate them because they're just dandelions, they're just weeds. Well, I think that's rather splendid. and we can create some sort of vistas with oxide days and stuff like that. So a lot of this is very easy to do if you've got your conditions right. And the main thing is to understand what the baseline conditions are, because when you're intervening, you're starting what we call an ecological succession. That's a process of development that will continue. The garden is not, or your park is not static, it changes, it evolves over time. But that, I think, is absolutely splendid. That's one of the ones down in Chelmsford, created site like that. So what you get depends on soil condition, so you need to understand those factors that I mentioned earlier, and then it depends on the timing and the height of the cut. What we've got too accustomed to is regular routine cutting at a very short level so that nothing survives apart from a few of the grass species. But you can very, very quickly change that. And within the garden, you can think about borders and rockeries and the species that we can grow there. But looking to nature for inspiration and then applying it in the garden, because that's what will bring the wildlife to you. And one of the great pleasures I've had in the last few years is this little bird is a greenfinch, as I'm sure you all know, and they were virtually extinct. And for the first 10 years or so of being in the present house line, we had hardly any greenfinches, and then the last 3 years they've come back. And this year I've had up to 10 male greenfinches at once, and they suddenly seem to have recovered dramatically. And we can make a difference. You know, these 15 million or so gardens can make a huge difference. And you know, it's not, a lot of it is not rocket science. It's thinking about what you've got. It's working with nature, not against nature, to actually bring that benefit. Thinking vertically, using the space, using fences, hedges, support. Think about creating a woodland edge with things like leopard's bane and red campion, damp woodland edges, Paris. Woodruff is a lovely little flower which you can naturalise in. It ends up being a bit weedy, but you just grow it out from the area where you don't want it. In some cases with sort of wildlife gardening, you need to be quite harsh. You need to be prepared to be a bit brutal, because it is gardening. And then joining the bits, the hedges, walls, fences, allow you to grow the brambles, to grow the honeysuckle. You're looking at having as much flower for as much of the year as possible, and then having the cover, and then having the fruit, the berries, etc. And if you've got little bits of walls or rockery, things like yellow corridalis, again, will be very, very good for solitary bees and honeybees, and will grow on a bit which otherwise probably won't be productive at all. And then, as I can say, ivy, a lot of this can be done. You can spend an awful lot of money on feeding the birds, you can spend a lot of money on gardening, or you can do it for in Sheffield Parks next to Note. And ivy is a really good plant. You can see there the berries ripening late in the autumn, and they're going to be there and available for the birds after they've already eaten all the rowans and the hawthorns and everything else. So if you're going to get these things year round, you want, and through the winter you want the late berries as well as the early berries. The other thing is things like ivy, you've then got holly blue butterfly, and you've got quite a number of other species as well that will benefit from the cover and the flowers. And if you've got walls, walls and rockeries, think about the little stone crops. And then also, if you're looking at biodiversity, if you've got kids that you want to get involved in, you can get them looking with a hand lens and sort of coming down to a micro size to look at these miniature ecological systems, which are absolutely fascinating. And you can do a huge amount with shingle and cobbles and forest bark, And a lot of this is minimal intervention. You know, you create conditions and then you just let it go. Now you might need to reseed some of these areas or let the foxglove seed. You know, they tend to be short-lived perennials or biennials, but they can be absolutely stunning. And if you get the conditions right, they will seed back again and again. And things like lavender, you know, I've said this, you know, we're not talking about just native species. Lavender is fantastic for bees and hoverflies and bumblebees. And it will be in flower probably for nearly 2 months. And then, of course, you can cut the flowers and have the dry flowers indoors as well. So, really making the most of it. And one of my other favourites is marjoram. It is just so fantastic. It's easy to grow, and you can get the yellow, the golden leaf one as well. And once you've got it, it will seed itself in. And that is absolutely unbelievable for bees. They will love it. So if you get it in a number of different patches in the garden, so they get the sunlight at different times of the day, and some of them come into flower earlier in the season, some come into flower later in the season, then you get a huge, huge benefit. And then water and wetlands, ponds and marshes. You know, even if you've got issues about safety, you can make a wet area that's totally safe. And you can start to grow plants which are now quite uncommon. So again, if you've got kids and you want to get them into this, you can grow things like ragged robin in a garden. And these are plants that they probably won't see in the wild anymore. So marsh marigold and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of things. And look, one of my aspirations, as the friends know, for Whirlow Brook, is to develop the idea of a bog garden in the top pond, which I think would be fantastic. And we could have things like ragged robin, but also potentially sphagnum mosses and even sundews possibly could grow there, which would be Sheffield's first bog garden like that. You can do this on a big scale. This was an arable field about 5 years before this. This is the Hagwood Meadow Trust near York, and they've created all sorts of habitats and a pond there. But what they have got as well is this stuff around the edge. And they've got wet areas and they've got open water, but they've also got annual weed species along the sort of edge area, which is kept because the water goes up and down. So you have this zone which has got bare ground, which is often at a premium in nature now. So that is all really fantastic. And you can see the pollinating insects really enjoying it. From nothing, that's from an arable field. And absolutely fantastic habitat, doing really, really well. So, this is a created site in a community wild space in Chelmsford, created as part of the development. But that was just, you know, that would normally just be short mown grass, that's how we would have done it. And it's now an absolutely fantastic wildflower meadow. They're not rare, they're not difficult to grow, it's easy peasy. And very minimal maintenance as well. So the question I'm asking then is, why are we not doing this more widely? Because we could do it. So I think that was, you know, that sort of thing I think is quite inspirational, and we could do it in many, many places. So it's starting, what I wanted to do this afternoon was to think about your space, your garden, your community space, and then those wider areas, which we tend to just short mow because that's what we've always done. And we need to do it differently. And if once you're geared up, I accept at the start, for local authorities, it's actually quite difficult because you haven't got the gear. You couldn't do the manual I'm trying to advocate. But now we have got the gear, but in Grace Park we've got machines that come on and cut the hay, then take the hay off again. So you can do that. We should be doing it. And of course the other thing that we need are champions within the community, or champions that's you guys, but then also champions within the local authority to actually bring this about. So, you know, you want the people with the skills and with the passion to deliver this on the ground.
Yeah, but what is our